Right then, here we are again. Good to see you all hip and elbow healed up. You crazy man, you. Take it easy on that bicycle. Yeah, I just wanted to watch you in real time a couple times over. Nice to see the sort of slightly before swing is made and slightly after. On the whole, it'd be a bit disappointing for us both if I started with the sort of negative vibes. I think on the whole, decent has to be said. But this being about possibly figuring out what we can do even better, building on top of what you've got here. If I sort of pause the action a moment, I kind of feel like this is not in any software, by the way, so I'm just kind of watching this from our WhatsApp thread. But if you look in pause mode and take a vertical line down from the back of your armpits, use your imagination on this one. I'll stick it in a bit of software in a minute. Possibly a centre of gravity just a little bit out beyond your knees and sort of vertically above the tips of your toes, which kind of feels like you're stooped forward, a bit more forward bend than we might function a little bit better with. So I'm guessing your weight might feel a little bit like it's in your toes. But you'd have to give me some feedback on that one. The only reason I'm sort of, my attention is piqued when it comes to balance. If we watch your man play, just when he finishes, you can see that little bit of teetering. If you look at his feet are sort of fighting to keep him upright, which, Scotty Scheffler's made a pretty damn healthy career out of moving from one place to another. So I wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, as it were. So I think on the whole, my dear chap, I would give you good marks out of 10 for that. But I would just be wary and be, sort of mindful of the fact that if you can get more centered, more grounded from the outset, then it bodes well for control of your body. And if you've got control of you, you'll have control of your club. And if you control your club, you'll have control of your ball flight. That would be the idea. But a bit more in-depth stuff we should probably do also down the line. Just going to have a look at you in real time front on first. So front on, you look pretty 50-50 stable, left side a smidge taller than right, no complaints there. And see you sort of fidgeting around, looking at target, getting a nice association with how it's going to feel to strike the ball satisfactorily. Good bit of flaring out of the left foot there, sort of pivoting. All of us, I think maybe you could flare the lead foot out more to begin with. It's perhaps flared a little bit, but you could experiment with flaring out a little bit more, and that might assist you in rotating your body through impact. Obviously his knee, ankle and hip, in whichever order, ankle, knee and hip of the left side do take a bit of punishment from us right-sided golfers, as we know. So, let's have a look in a little bit more detail, but in real time. Nice flow to it, nice balance to it, nice rhythm to it. So, a little waggle there and a couple of looks, and then off he goes. So, looking very competent, shall we say. So, looking in a bit more detail down the line, we know if you look at the full-length version, the 30-second version, this is just the seconds it takes to swing, 2 or 3 seconds. Just before you make this little move, you can see the way the club is hovering, and you've spent quite a bit of time fidgeting around, and that's, perfectly normal. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but fidgeting around, presumably to sort of instinctively find balance, find the location that you can be most stable and most mobile simultaneously, and make that lovely pivot in your upper sternum, which all us golfers need to do successfully to thrive and survive. But if I just spool that back a tiny bit, I'm just going to run it forwards. Just watch the way the club and your whole upper body sort of moves forwards. There. Now, if you found balance here, and then you shift forwards to sort of address the ball, that moment sort of is where I think we get our weight just a little bit less centered. And what we sort of want ideally is you to find this flavor and have the weight of your body in the middle of your feet, if you see what I mean. So from here, we're taller, and if we put a vertical line down the back of your armpits, it's almost perfectly above your kneecaps, which if you look at somebody like Justin Thomas, who's probably similar height and build to you, he's a little bit taller than me, not a stocky guy, much like yourself, and lean and mean. And I think you sort of see this bit here where your centre of gravity moves forwards and then it's a little bit further out. So, I just think that's speaking to your balance. Exactly how terrifically that's affecting your swing shape, hard to say, but I don't think, you always want to start from a position of strength. And you're mentioning there your due diligence on your setup. I mean, in all of the ways I can observe, it's bob on. But if you pay me for my wisdom, my opinion, and my second opinion to yours, and to back you up with what the right and good decisions are and the proper way to go about it. And that really is the only way I can fault your setup. I think in other respects, we've got good posture here. So once we're set, decent posture, arms hanging from shoulders vertically downwards, sort of kneecaps sort of vertically above where your toes start to grow, that kind of thing. But again, I think your legs maybe an upper body, the extent to which somebody's forward bent, the extent to which their knees are bent, all about getting your weight to feel like it's in the middle of your feet, but a little bit outside your heels, which is kind of, again, very normal. So, you're close to ideal. There's no question about that. Let's just have a look at some lines while we're on the down the line view. So we go right through that pivotal point, that centre of mass of yours, which has got a little bit out beyond your kneecaps, but it's not the end of the world. So the ideal biomechanical swing plane. I know you know what that's all about. Again, focusing on striking the ball out of the middle of the club. Much easier to deliver the club squarely to the target if it's not travelling too horribly across. So, I mean, that's absolutely bob on there, really. A little bit blurred. If you were outdoors, I think it would be crystal clear, but the frame rate obviously is slightly lower, because we've got not so bright lights compared to outdoors, but the club almost perfectly on plane, a little bit above the plane. I never mind seeing it a little bit below or a little bit above. A little bit of separation between your forearms. That's probably why the swing looks a bit long. We'll see that from the front on view. Possibly the right leg straightening a little bit like the old days. Keep a little bit of flexion in this right knee. Just try and keep a little bit more flex in that right knee, and that will prevent your swing from looking a bit too long, really. And again, it will take stress off your left knee and stop your weight tipping into your left foot too much in the backswing. And again, the separation of the arms a little bit, something we've looked at in the past, I believe, where the right forearm moves a little bit away from the left. And that will add length to your backswing as well. So instead of it being sort of finishing, in this sort of region, it goes on a little bit further. But again, I don't think it's death on a stick. Let's see how you handle things from there. Club comes a little from above. So we take the club back almost perfectly on plane. And the club travels from quite a high and upright position from above into, impact. I'm not going to say that your body is as rotated as I could possibly imagine you. We could be more right side onto the ball. The club could be more to the right of us as we hit, and inspiring you to, you need to show the camera more left glute and more of both glutes really, and more left leg. A little bit more footwork at this point would not go amiss. I'll use JT as a comparison because he's a fine player, and you can see the way the club is very much on plane in the follow through. So it's living life around the ideal biomechanical plane, a little bit above it, travelling from a little bit above. I wouldn't mind betting. I can't quite see. It's a little blurred. Can't quite see your swing path numbers, but I'm guessing they're a little out to in by a few degrees, and that's probably promoting a little tendency. If the club face is open to that path, you'll curve to the right a little bit, sometimes a lot. If the club face is a lot open to that swing path, and other times you might pull straight left or pull hook, because an out to in swing path can produce pulls, pull hooks, and it can produce fades and slices. So that swing path can have quite myriad different outcomes attached to it. All of the above, all those 4 different ball flights could be delivered from the same swing path. It just depends on where the club face is pointing in relation to that swing path. But I think you know that by now. If you don't, then just we check in for some clarification. Not an easy thing to express purely in words, but you can see the club travelling from above, otherwise known as outside that line, and onto that line. It's not really exiting underneath. It's pretty much bob on. As you can see, the shaft there, it's almost perfect. So pretty good. Decent marks, but a little bit more. So I'm going to use JT. It's absolutely pouring it down outside. So instead of doing a demonstration myself, I'm going to use Justin Thomas. So here's JT, and you can see this guy, his ritual of taking the club back sort of parallel with this alignment pole, such that the club hugs this ideal biomechanical swing plane. It's pretty close, but it's not technically perfect, but it's decent. It's a good position to get into. And let's see, his right leg maintains a good deal more flex than yours, but like yourself, gets a little bit of separation between the forearms. It's not crazy, but again, a little bit softer in the knee, a little bit more flexion has been maintained, and that perhaps gives a little bit more stability in the change of direction in the transition. So where does he go? His club drops sort of down, and I think the significant thing is the reason the club's more behind him and appears to drop sort of downwards is because you can see how much more of his left leg is exposed. We can even see a gap between his legs there, all right, which is exposed as a result of his rotation. So there's a lot of lower body rotation. We can clearly see his left glute and right glute, and he's able, as a result, to still strike the ball beautifully, but with flexion retained in his right arm there, which has gone 1 frame later. So it's kind of about the snap. It's about timing things so that the peak pressure on the ball is achieved. If you give away your right arm and get into this straight right arm position too early, that's usually a sign that your body isn't rotating enough and that you've had to do all the work with your hands and arms. So we need a bit more rotation from you, dear boy. I know I always push you on that, but we could do with going a bit further and emulating JT on that one. All right, but his club arrives from almost exactly on plane and exits almost exactly on plane. But again, this is about good enough. It doesn't need to be perfect. So that's decent. All right, that is a decent example. Let's go to you front on. Yeah, so front on John Leake. I always, I kind of like to see a little bit of forward shaft lean, which you've got there. It's consistent with the club's design and perhaps our intentions for impact. And looks like your hold is in good shape. Left wrist is in decent condition. It's not wandering too far to one side of the handle. That was inhibits wrist action. Certainly radial inflection, which is kind of like the hammering action that is part and parcel of a golf swing. We've got right shoulder lower than left, just a hair, which is the same as right hand being lower than left on the handle. We've got the appearance that the left side is just a fraction taller than the right side, and otherwise it looks very stable. Maybe a slight bit of spine lean there, which is good, I think. Could flare this left foot out a little bit more, and I think that would probably aid rotation. That might be something that's restricting rotation, which obviously aforementioned in the down the line angle. But yeah, we could probably point this toe more forwards. Sorry, that was meant to be an arrow. Won't let me draw an arrow, don't worry. Yeah, so pointing your toe more towards the camera with your right foot, your trail foot, and then flaring out your left foot more towards the target, a few more degrees, would be helpful in the endeavours to liberate more flexibility and freedom to rotate. But from front on, pretty ship shape, by the time you get halfway through your backswing, your shoulders have rotated about half. Do like to see your right forearm living life still above your left, because you've got that forward bend towards the camera, so you'd expect to see the right forearm at this point. If you were swinging on a perfectly flat plane, your right arm would be hidden by your left. So that's perfectly consistent with what we'd expect to see. Sort of get to here, and that's where we get this sort of tall right side vibe and a little bit more curve in your left side than is probably healthy. It'd be nice if we sort of maintain this feeling like your chest is facing towards the ground. I think I can remember talking to you about that, where we don't get our sort of too much our chest facing towards the sky feeling. Left arm soft, I don't mind that too much. A lot of people get bent out of shape about that. But if your left arm was at fuller length, that would make your swing look a little bit shorter. And if your right arm didn't separate from your left, which you can't see from this angle we saw on the downline angle, then your swing would look a bit more pinched and a little bit more kind of archetypal, where the club would end up on horizontal rather than, be a little bit shorter fundamentally, a little bit leaner, a little bit less going on. We changed direction again. There's many players with the Mickelsons and obviously the John Daly's of this world, and Jake Knapp in the more recent sort of era, if you like. He very little bit of an overswing, I suppose tradition would say, but doesn't bother me none as a coach. I don't place a lot of value on that being crucial to the piece, because there's so many players who don't abide by the sort of notion that the club has to be parked up at the end of the backswing perfectly parallel with the ground. So yeah, again, it sort of feels like you're front on here rather than your body opened up to the target. You can see how your feet are flat on the ground at impact or even just after it. So we want to see a little bit more footwork, just like we saw from JT there going on. You can spool this back and have a look after I've summarised this. But, I think from front on, you'd want to see that the feet had worked harder to get the legs to rotate the hips. So the essence is that you hit the ball more on your right with the club on the right-hand side of your body. So I'll make sure I include a link which, is a good, certainly at least one drill. There are several if you do a bit of trawling. I know you're a fan of the 1 minute to Masters, but there's more than one that deals with hitting the ball on the right-hand side of your body. There's certainly more than one. So have a little trawl, and anything that mentions that subject is very relevant to you, sir. As you follow through, your body coping well with perhaps a little bit of under rotation there. Sometimes see a chicken wing going on, but you're keeping the club rotating forwards and clearing the left side of the body as best you can. But again, you can see your left foot fighting to free itself from the ground so that you don't stress your body unduly. Don't stress the ankle too much and the knee and the hip. But you could alleviate that. It's not a terrible look, in my opinion. Bryson DeChambeau's made, again, a living out of it, and there's lots of players whose left foot spins out a little bit and they function perfectly well. But again, it's levels of flexibility are usually at play there when it comes to why that's happening and notion of that. So, okay, this, in addition to... if it wasn't raining outside, I might do a little bit of piece to camera, but I hope I've covered the bases. I hope I've given you some clarity there. You can always give me some pushback. But yeah, it's absolutely pouring outside at the moment and I'm really not up for it. I can't get to the range today, so I will have to just hope that you get some clarity from that. And the additional links I'll send you are relevant. So enjoy. Great to see you in action, my dear boy, again. I'm glad you've repaired and look after yourself. Catch up with you soon. Go Europe.